What specifically do you think are the gaps? Where are the gaps in parent education, do you think?
Um, Understanding processes. So the biggest process I think in terms of what happens in a young person's footballing life is that kind of retain and release process. So that's quite a difficult one, and it's a difficult one two ways. Coaches hate it. It's the worst part of being a coach. Telling a young person that either they're not good enough, um, they're because that's what they will hear. No matter what you say to them, you can say they're all lovely stuff to the young person, but ultimately, a young person or a family would probably hear that they're not good enough, or they're not good enough for that environment at that time. So for the coaches, it's education about that, about delivering that message. I think it's about the anxieties of what coaches get with delivering that message. Um, because as I said earlier, coaches, it might be their first job. They might have come from two ways. They might come from studying, and then they become this football coach, or they might have they might have had a footballing career. At the back of end of it, they want to be this football coach. So whether or not they develop those skills, some do, some don't, and sometimes it's a learning process. For parents, I think understanding that process, understanding kind of the whole the likelihood of being a footballer is very slim, and what that might mean. I think what a strong message from me was when I started getting in football, getting from academy football. Don't speak to the young person as a footballer. So and send that message to the parents as well, that they got to make sure that this is not the be all and end all of their kind of footballing experience. That they've got other inverted commas legs to stand on. So what other hobbies they've got, what other pieces makes them as a person. And I think that kind of education for parents is important. And I only say that because in terms of my lived experience, you see parents who it is the be all and end all. This is kind of the absolute priority for that young person, and sometimes rightfully so. Sometimes I just think it it puts pressure on the young person, and them not understanding that process of what the young person has to go through, and the likelihood that they won't become a footballer is not sometimes not balanced in the right way, I think.
Mm. No, well, we often sort of refer to it as parents get sort of entangled in it because it's such a big commitment for parents. Like the one driving them there and taking them there and going to the games. You give up quite a big part of your life to support it. You've got other kids and other things to think about and work, and it can become a massive part of your life, and it's sort of almost set up in a way that it's highly likely that a parent will become quite invested in the journey. Can you see that from a coaching perspective? It's almost, that's why that piece is so important to really just try and communicate with parents.
Yeah, it's a two-way thing for coaches, and I'll be very honest. It's a two-way thing. We love parents that are invested to support what's going on for the young person. Often parents don't see coaches seeing it that way. They kind of see it as coaches want parents to stand. You stand there in the corner. Don't say the word. Don't do nothing. Do not talk. Do not. Now, believe it or not, coaches don't think like that. We want to have that kind of freeway dialogue in regards to, but what we don't want is it becomes solely what the parent wants. So what the parent might need in certain respects, what we want it to be is what the kid needs. Let's work around what the child needs. So I think sometimes when it kind of overlaps or they become more of one area, then that's when you get the concern, and that's when coaches might go, is the child getting what they need from the support from the parent? For some parents, absolutely. For other parents, and I have to be honest, probably not. Where it becomes literally a relationship between the coach and the parent rather than the coach, parent, and child. So I would say, and I honestly feel that there needs to be sort of like this better way of working. And I don't think there's an easy answer to it. I just think once we understand what the child means, I think that's the best starting place. understand what the child needs. And sometimes the child might go, I'm quite confident to ask for support through a dialogue or through a way, through review meetings as we have, or through the relationship that I just have with my coach, because that might work. Because I've seen a child flourish where the parent just stands back, and I've also seen a child flourish when at any given time the parent is there to support the child. So I just honestly believe it's understanding what the child wants and needs and likes, really.